On the tech scene, with innovation and skill, we're making it clean. Flipping and twisting, with code and with grace. Building a continent where tech takes its place. Tech Hub Africa, we're flying high. With every line of code, we touch the sky. We're the acrobats of the digital age. Tech Hub Africa, turning the page. Balancing the scales of innovation and art. With every step and every leap, we're reaching the heart of the digital future, where Africa takes the lead. Tech Hub Africa, the possibilities are free. Tech Hub Africa, we're flying high. With every line of code, we touch the sky. We're the acrobats of the digital age. Tech Hub Africa, turning the page. Balancing the scales of innovation and art. With every step and every leap, we're reaching the heart of the digital future, where Africa takes the lead. With Tech Hub Africa, the possibilities are free. Yeah, Tech Hub Africa, we're flying high. With every line of code, we touch the sky. We're the acrobats of the digital age. Tech Hub Africa, turning the page.
Hello, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. Welcome to today's discussion on Beyond Borders, leveraging intercultural insights for tech startup success. I'm Doreen, your moderator for today, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest, Slava Baranovskiy. Slava, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I am going to share a brief overview of your bio. You have an extensive experience working with startups across different cultures. You are a seasoned tech entrepreneur and innovator with over 15 years of experience driving digital transformation across industries. As the founder of Allegiant Club for startup founders and leaders of the Allegiant Tech Accelerator, you empower entrepreneurs to succeed. You are also the CEO of Allegiant TV, a bespoke tech solutions company, and founder of the Allegiant Film Festival, spotlighting startup stories. You are a firm believer in lifelong learning and hold an engineering and business degrees. Slava has delivered over 90 workshops and lectures on startups, so it's only right that we have you on today. You are currently serve as the entrepreneur and executive in residence at Brunel Business School and mentor of the Halt Foundation Lab, sharing your expertise across Europe's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Slava is working on expanding Allegiance reach, authoring a book on building tech startups, and developing film projects based on real entrepreneurial journey. So definitely an expert in the field in the topic that we're going to be discussing today. And I am so excited to have you on today. So welcome, Slava, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Darine. It's my pleasure to join the session. Good evening, everyone, and nice to connect.
Awesome. So let's get started. But before we do, I have, for our discussion today, I will cover 5 main topics. So number 1, we'll talk about the background, right? I'm going to be asking questions on the background, followed by your intercultural insights. Then we'll talk about overcoming intercultural challenges, and we'll wrap it up with your best practices, and then you can give us any of a top 2 or top 3 things to take away. How does that sound?
I'll try my best.
Awesome. All right. So let's start. Can you share your experience working with startups across different cultures?
Thank you very much, Darine, for your question. Definitely, I would like to start and maybe give a brief background. So when we talk about startup success, especially in the tech world, the conversation often centers around product scalability, digital infrastructure, operational efficiency. Founders aiming for international growth usually think in terms of how fast their platform can scale, or how well their backend can handle users across the different time zones, or how to optimize the remote operations. But what's frequently overlooked, and often it's a great cost, is the intercultural dimension. And I'm so happy to talk about this today. So launching the startup across multiple regions, it doesn't just mean translating your app or product into a few languages. It means actually understanding how customers from different cultural backgrounds think, behave, how they make decisions. It means knowing how to communicate trust, value, and relevance in a way that it would resonate locally, even when you are building globally. So from my experience working with startups across borders, what I've seen is that the ability to read and respond to a cultural context is often what separates startups that normally expand from those who truly connect and succeed internationally. So what I'm trying to say is that interculturality plays that crucial and significant role for startup success and international expansion.
It's interesting that you mentioned this is an area that is normally overlooked, and rightly so. People are so focused on profit, and bottom line that they forget about the people they actually going to be working with. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask about how have you seen intercultural insights impact startup success in general?
Yes, that's also a very important question. I would like to highlight that understanding culture is not just nice to have, it's a strategic advantage. In fact, I would go as far as saying that knowing the culture is the market you enter in is the key determinant to whether your startup will succeed or struggle. Through the Allergen Club community, which I'm running, I have the chance to observe how startups with truly multicultural teams often outperform others when expanding in international markets. And why this is happening is because they are able to anticipate the customer missteps and build the trust more effectively. So one piece of advice I would always give to founders looking to international markets in terms of expansion: buy a book about the culture first of market you want to enter, and the next book can be about the business strategy. Why? Because we really need to understand how people, what people value, how they communicate, and what builds credibility in that specific culture. Even the best strategy can fall if you don't understand these essential basics and foundations of it. So startups that lead to the cultural intelligence are the ones that win customer loyalty and build strong global foundations.
Thank you for that wonderful background. So now we know that it's important to really know the culture of the market where you are trying to go to. With that in mind, I'm going to pivot to how you leverage those cultural insights once you have it. And the question I have for you is, what specific intercultural insights have you found most valuable in startup environment?
Yes, definitely. What I would like to highlight that in the startup world, one of the most valuable intercultural insights I've learned is that everything is more personal. From how people evaluate you to how they decide whether to trust or collaborate with and your business. For example, if you're applying for a job in the UK, hiring decisions are supposed to be based on your experience, skills, performance, not your appearance or background. But in the startup world, the first thing people often do is actually check your LinkedIn profile. They want to get a sense who you are as a founder, your tone, your presentation, your values and appearance. That means if you want to scale your product internationally, you need to make sure your personal brand is accessible and appropriate for global audiences. I've seen some startup founders actually with impressive ideas, but their entire LinkedIn profile is written in some native language, let's say Spanish or another language. And this unintentionally close some possible doors for partners or clients who don't speak that specific language. It's about openness, tone, or cultural signals. So therefore, your website of your startup or your social media channels, even the email communication, all should reflect an understanding of the culture you're trying to reach. On a deeper level, actually, small interpersonal behaviors also matter. In the UK, for instance, it's common to begin the business meeting with a bit of casual conversation about the weather, the weekend, or some recent holiday, right? But in different cultures like Germany or Japan, spending several minutes on a small talk at the start of the meeting actually can be viewed as inefficient or sometimes even unprofessional. So the key insight is this: in startups, every small detail matters. When you're running a large established company, small cultural mismatches actually might be tolerated. But at the early stages of a startup, even minor missteps in communication, branding, interpersonal interaction can actually lead to misunderstandings, delays, or even lost opportunities. Therefore, if you want warmth from your audience, offer it first. Learn few local words, understand basic traditions, and adopt your tone and presence to show that you care about the culture you want to step in. And definitely it would pay you back.
Definitely learn those few local words and make sure you use it appropriately, because otherwise it's going to get you into trouble as well. You have spoken like a pro, Slava. I'm going to ask you, as someone who has worked with startups for years, over 15 years now, how do you adapt your approach to suit diverse cultural contexts? And can you give us an example of a successful intercultural collaboration or partnership?
I think we can mention our today's talk as a part of, as an example of international collaboration across continents, right, and different cultures. In my experience, the foundation of any successful intercultural collaboration is not just about understanding the cultural habits, tradition, or just communication styles. It's about finding and aligning about your shared values. If you ask me about our Allergen Club partners from different continents, from Europe, Asia, Africa, America, why they chose to collaborate with the Allergen Club. And they would say exactly the same thing. We collaborate because we share the same values. And the key here is because we have shared values, we have no cultural barriers. So the trust, respect, integrity, and shared vision, that's something quite universal, and we cannot fake it. If I understand the culture deeply, but it's impossible to pretend that I share the same values if I actually don't. So when adapting to diverse cultural context, it's important to begin with the clarity on the core values your startup is built on. And then I would suggest to seek the partners and clients who actually naturally align with those values. That alignment becomes the bridge. And cultural nuances still matter. Yes, we adopt communication, workflows, the processes, but when our values genuinely are in sync, the collaboration feels authentic, mutual, and definitely the beneficial for the both parties. So my suggestion, define your core values early. Don't compromise on them, and look for partners actually who would resonate with your values, your principles, and beliefs. That may help you to build successful collaborations across cultures.
And that is when you know that you have, in fact, moved beyond borders. So thank you for that. For now, you have given us a good overview of what leveraging intercultural insights for success is all about. You have also provided us some insights on how we can leverage intercultural insights. I'm going to ask you about challenges. How do we overcome challenges? Because they are there. So first question I have for you on challenges is, what are some of the common challenges startups face when operating across cultures?
Definitely, the challenges is something we have to discuss. One of the common issue, I would say, or kind of underestimated issue or challenges, is that misunderstanding how customers and partners in different cultures actually make decisions. A classic mistake I've seen: startup and some wants to enter some new market, offering some cheap product or cheaper product than competitors, and assuming that customers will naturally switch to a more affordable option, right? But in many cultures, price is not the main driver. Trust and perceived local benefit are far more important. If you take countries like India, Japan, France, for example, they would be very, let's say, focused on their local products and local businesses. So in their specific markets, customers often prefer local brands, even maybe they can be even more expensive sometimes. There's a strong sense that buying local that supports the national economy or preserves tradition or sustain the local jobs. So even sometimes cheaper foreign product may be also viewed with suspicion or being disconnected from local needs. So similarly, in some regions like Middle East or parts of America, Latin America, for example, trust plays a central role in purchasing decisions. And I believe in Africa the same. So it's not just about how great your product is, it's about whether the product is trusted by your possible customers and your intentions and commitment to local community. That's why companies who try to sell directly without developing some local partnerships, or the ones who cannot build the trust, often fail to gain traction at the specific markets, because the customers, they may see this type of products as an outsiders who simply extracting value rather than contributing to the local ecosystem. So my suggestion would be is that local knowledge of the culture is not just a marketing add-on, it's strategic foundation. If we don't understand how people make decisions in that particular culture, we will struggle to connect, even our product is objectively excellent. So again, we're coming back to the point that we really need to understand the culture, but also decision-making process of people in that particular cultural context.
I love it. And I love the fact that you kept highlighting the importance of trust, because trust is really a universal currency when you're dealing with any human being. So it's important that we make that also at the forefront. But then there are times that even with trust, there might be some misunderstanding. So how do you navigate cultural differences and potential misunderstandings?
Right. I think it's not that scary as it sounds. You know, we're all different indeed. And that's the beauty of actually intercultural teams and maybe there's collaborations. In a startup environment specifically, these particular differences in how we think, work, and solve problems actually can be incredible strengths. Diverse teams and diverse perspectives, they lead to more creative ideas, some broader solutions, and better decision-making process. But naturally, of course, with diversity, we may get some potential misunderstanding. And that's actually completely normal. It's not a problem itself. What matters here is how we handle misunderstandings. First, of course, we need to make an effort to learn each other's cultures. One great way to make a try and maybe to learn about different cultures is organizing some different type of cultural events. For example, it can be Diwali from Indian culture, Eid from the Middle East, Lunar New Year from East Asia, or Thanksgiving from the America, right? So these celebrations not only build the awareness of the culture, but creates the bonding moments that go beyond just work itself. Second misunderstanding happens is when they happen, we need to ask this very important question: can be a cultural perspective behind this misunderstanding? For example, in some cultures, they tend to be more risk-taking. For example, America, while in other cultures, like in Germany or Japan, they're more risk-averse. So that specific difference can impact everything from product strategy to how we fast team and how we move teams and how we develop our business. So if we clash on that decision, it doesn't mean that someone is right or someone is wrong. It may just mean that you see in the situation through different cultural perspective or lens. A helpful resource I often recommend is a Hofstede cultural study, which has 6 dimensions and key metrics such as individualism, the power distance, and uncertainty avoidance, explaining how different cultures differ. So please take a look. A part of this, the Hofstede model, we now live in the ChatGPT era, right? So if you aim to build this cultural bridge with specific culture or specific partner or clients, my advice would be just, make a quick research on ChatGPT or another AI tool and learn from key insights about the culture. However, on the top of the digital tool, my suggestion also that AI would never replace real conversation. So talk to your team members, be curious, build a habit of asking, not what do I think is right, but what makes sense in their specific cultural context. And I think this mindset shift of taking a look at the perspective, not only of yourself, but possible perspective of other team members from different cultures or your clients or partners would make a significant shift.
I love it. And I love how you mentioned it's how you handle those misunderstandings, because they will come. How you handle it is going to be the make or break for you as a business. So thank you for that. I'm going to pivot to best practices. You have had over 90 workshops focused on startups, and your TV, Allegiant TV, is also focused on startups pitches. I want you to share some best practices for our viewers here. So what advice would you give to startups looking to leverage intercultural insights?
Right. I think that, again, it's not that difficult to start with, right? So we can start small. We can start intentionally. Intercultural insight doesn't require a huge budget. It actually requires curiosity, humility, and consistency. My advice is to first talk to real people from your target market, not just through surveys, but have a real conversations, honest talks. Understand how people think, what they value, how they make decisions, right? Second point would be build a cultural learning into your routine. Follow local voices on social media, read some regional news, attend some events. Now online, we can reach any continent actually, right? And also we can ask our team members to share some traditions and perspectives, right? So next point would be study success and failure. Look at startups that made successfully in your specific target market which you want to enter? How did they communicate? How did they position? And how did they localize? Just as importantly, study those who actually failed. Often the barrier wasn't the technology, but we coming back, a barrier could be a trust or some specific cultural fit, right? Next point would be about joining local startup communities in that specific regions. Engage with these meetups, some incubator programs or accelerators in that specific region you aiming to enter, right? So these local communities may actually give you these insights about the markets, the consumers, the challenges and the opportunities as well. But also we don't have to learn everything ourselves. We can actually find the mentors with the deep knowledge of these particular local markets. Good mentor who knows the culture can save you months or years of missteps. Next one, build partnerships with local startups and organizations. These relationships can open doors for you, build a trust, and help you embed in that specific local ecosystem sometimes much faster and much more authentically. And finally, maybe the most joyful one, buy a ticket to the flights and go to visit that particular place. Walk to the streets, talk to local people, eat the cultural food, observe how people live, shop, connect, talk. So there is no better way to see the culture than through the lens of your own eyes and in real time, right? So what I'm trying to say that in the end, intercultural insight is not just about the business strategy, because we do not operate with entities. We deal with people. So it's all about people and how people respond to our kind of approach and interaction. That's what matters. And that's why my suggestion would be learn through your personal experiences as well.
I love it. And I love how you say, you know, attend these meetups, attend these workshops. And in fact, for those who are looking to come to Ghana, Tech Hub actually have every year around Christmas, we have what we call the Tech Group Meetup, where like-minded tech enthusiasts just come together and mingle and also potentially make business, you know, partnerships. So definitely leverage that because it's the way to go. So thank you. Now it's a good time to show our sponsors. We do have Allegiant TV, of which Slava is CEO. So thank you very much for sponsoring today's event. And thank you also for doing the replay for tomorrow. We do have GH Accommodation, which also provides hostel accommodations for students currently in Ghana and all across the universities in Ghana. And of course, I mentioned the Tech Guru Meetup, which is funded by Tech Hub Africa. So we are encouraging people to join us this December in Ghana as well. So with that, I'm going to ask you another question on best practices, because I love the insights that you've given. You cannot be in a silo when you are doing a startup. You have to learn from people because they have walked the path you are trying to walk on. So what role do you see intercultural competence playing in the future of startup success?
All right, thank you so much for your question. Actually, I would say it's not about the future, it's about requirements of today. So interculturality is important to something we need to focus now. In many cases, it can be the key deciding factors in why customer may choose your startup over another. I've seen many startups actually win clients, or they successfully entered the markets, not just because they had the biggest budgets or the most advanced technology, but because they understand the human's nature, they understand the people and the customers they were trying to serve, right? So at the same time, I've seen competitors with more resources, but they equally fail to connect simply because they lacked cultural insight. So while intercultural competence will become even more critical in the future, it's something I believe founders need to prioritize right now. In fact, I would encourage founders to ask, how can I make cultural understanding my startup USP, unique selling point, right? So, and here I want to make a quick reflection. If I ask this audience, how many of you actually downloaded a new app today? Most of you probably would say just zero, right? So we don't make it very often nowadays. But if even someone did download an app, it's likely because someone they trusted recommended it. So that trust is built through the cultural alignment by speaking the language, using the tone, and communication in the format and context your audience relates to. So, and that's where intercultural competence truly stands. It helps you build the trust across borders. And once the trust is there, people are far more willing to try a product or a service. So if you're building a startup today with the global ambitions, make cultural insights part of your core strategy, not just your marketing, and part of your USP, which is a unique selling point of startup.
Thank you. So some questions have come in, but I want to ask you two questions before we respond to the ones from our audience. I want to wrap this up and kind of hone it in. First question I have in the concluding part of our discussion is, how do you see the landscape of global startup ecosystem evolving in the next few years?
Thank you so much for your question. It's actually, I believe, quite interesting one. So we are witnessing a powerful long-term trend towards globalization, right? We cannot stop this. Because of digital technology, everything is possible now. We can connect to anyone around the globe in seconds, right? So it's very easy. But here we have the paradox. Just because you can reach anyone in few seconds, it doesn't actually mean that your product or service will automatically resonate to that specific audience. In parallel to global connectivity and globalization, we also see a rising trend of customer customization. People today expect products and services they feel more tailored to them, not just in terms of features, but also in terms of values, our aesthetics, cultural relevance, right? So this means cultural alignment is becoming more important than ever. In fact, I believe actually we will see more cultural resistance in the coming years. What does it mean? If your product or service doesn't resonate with local traditions, norms, or values, it's actually in more risk of being rejected. Not just because it's not useful, but because it doesn't feel right to customers, and they will try to select more customer culturally aligned products. So the future of global startups will not be just about the scale. It will be about the resonance, cultural alignments. And that's what deep intercultural insight will play an essential role. That's my belief.
And I think it's a good belief, because if people don't trust your product, they definitely will go with somebody that they trust. Let's wrap it up by you giving us at least two of your do's and don'ts for startups looking to leverage intercultural insights for success.
Thank you. Of course, let's try to start with do's, right? So my few do's. Number one, learn the cultures of your target markets. Before entering any new market, invest your time into understanding the local culture. And if possible, visit that country, region, city, the place you want to scale. Meeting people in that particular place on the ground, observing their everyday life and experiencing the local context will be way more efficient and successful insight rather than just reading some specific report or survey online. My second point would be build a multicultural international team from day one. Your team is the powerful resource. When you bring together people from different cultural backgrounds, you gain access to a rich pool of the knowledge, norms, beliefs, traditions, traditional religious practices, and definitely the local mindsets. Learn from these people, learn from their cultures. It will sharpen your cultural intelligence immensely. I would probably add one more. Adapt your value proposition to the local context. Please don't assume that your global messaging will automatically resonate to local cultures. Instead, translate the meaning of your product or service into culturally relevant terms. Align your branding, align your communication and experience design with specific local expectations. So customization and localization is the key. So that's where my do's, right? So, and I need to add probably a few don'ts. So number one, please don't assume digital scalability equals cultural fit. Just because your product is technically scalable doesn't mean it's culturally scalable. Start with markets you understand very well before expanding, and always localize your approach. Next one, please don't judge other cultures through your own cultural lens. What works in your home country or city may not work somewhere else. So please, your approach with every culture should be with humility, curiosity, and of course, respect, whether you're dealing with clients, partners, or your team members. And probably last one, don't treat cultural knowledge as one-time task. Culture is dynamic. People change, societies evolve. We have these multiple trends. So you should look in that particular cultural knowledge as ongoing process, as a daily practice, not just a checkbox or some one-time task. I think that's probably it for my do's and don'ts.
I love it. One size does not fit all when you're thinking globally. Thank you for that powerful insight, Slava. Before we go to the questions that came in, for those who just joined us, welcome. Our topic for today is Beyond Borders, leveraging intercultural insight for tech startup success. And our guest for today is Slava, and he is the CEO of Allegiant TV, and also a seasoned entrepreneur who has been working with startups for over 15 years. So Slava, I am going to ask you questions that came in. The first one is, what strategies would you recommend for building effective intercultural teams?
Sure, I think that this is also a very important question, and how to start. My suggestion would be start with your co-founders. If you really want to build intercultural team, the foundation begins with this, your founding team, the team of your core co-founders. When diversity is the part of your DNA from day one, it's becoming much more authentic to attract future employers or team members from different cultural backgrounds. At the Allergy Club, for example, one reason is our community is so multicultural is because that was one of our core values from day one. We made it very clear, everyone from any culture and background is welcome. That message resonated deeply and attracted founders from all across cultures, the continents, the different backgrounds. But welcoming diversity is just a step one. So real work is also in respecting it, learning from it, and embedding this cultural knowledge in startup everyday process, right? So personally, I treat this part of my daily responsibilities to learn about different cultures, to ask questions, to reflect on how our values align with this different cultural context. So therefore, to truly build an effective intercultural team, we need to create a safe, trust-based environment where people feel encouraged to share their traditions, values, perspectives, and maybe also differences. At the same time, we also need to establish clear cultural policies that guide this respectful behavior, collaboration, and communication, inclusive and accessible for everyone. So strong team culture doesn't mean one culture dominates. It actually means that every culture feels seen and valued. And again, everyone is welcome to work and collaborate together.
I love that. The second question, it says, how can startups balance global ambitions with local cultural nuances?
Right. Actually, every startup has dreams about going global, right? It's the nature of innovation. But global ambition without the cultural awareness is the fast track to fail. So the key is to start with the markets you really understand, where you know your customers, their motivation, how they make decisions, what drives the trust, and what the cultural expectations are. Once you achieve this real success in one specific market, then not just product market fit, but also product cultural fit. Only then you should look to expand into new markets. And even then, choose the next market based on your cultural proximity or your team's knowledge and expertise. Don't rush into markets you don't understand because you think that it's just a large or trending market. So a lot of companies, a lot of startups, they actually made this mistake. If you pick up even big companies like Uber who struggled in China, not because they had a bad technology, right? But because they misunderstood the local consumer behavior, the trust in local platforms, and some local nuances, right? So, and the local competitors like Didi navigated it more effectively. So the real success of global scalability depends on your ability to align with the cultural context of every specific market you enter. Yes, we need to think globally, but also we need to act locally and take into consideration this cultural knowledge of each market.
I love that. And I know time is fast spent, but there's one last question that came in, and it says, what's the most important thing you have learned about intercultural insights in startup environment?
I think it's going to be our key word of today. The most important thing I learned is that culture shapes how trust in startup is built, and that culture is never one size fits all. People around the world choose products and services they trust, but what build that trust, it's different. And then not just between countries, but with them too, even inside of the specific countries. For example, in a country like India, you are not dealing with one unified culture. You're actually navigating dozens of languages, traditions, or religious practices, often varying from one region to another. South and North are quite different. Similarly, if we talk about the culture in London or big cosmopolitan city like New York, it's very different from that culture in small towns across UK or US. So when we talk about the culture, it's not just about national identity. It's also about the regional, linguistic, or even city level nuances. And here why it matters. Culture often gives you the answer to why your clients or partners choose or do not choose your product or service. So therefore, sometimes it's not just about the price or specific features your product or service has. It's about whether your offering feels aligned with how they think, how they value, and how they trust. So understanding this is incredibly important for any startup founder. The deeper you grasp the cultural knowledge of the people you want to serve, the more effectively you can connect, communicate, build lasting relationship, and of course, get customers.
Slava, thank you so much for illuminating the path to intercultural competence in tech startup. To our audience, we are so grateful for your engagement. As you embark on your startup journey, remember, embracing diversity and understanding cultural nuances can be your greatest asset. Take these insights from somebody who knows, been there, done it, Slava, and apply them and watch your ventures thrive. Until next time, stay innovative, stay curious, to use the words of Slava, and keep pushing boundaries, because we are just getting started. And of course, do join us tomorrow on LinkedIn, as Allegiant TV will replay today's event. And also, next month, we will be having a discussion with Baroness Dr. Mavis Lennox, on a whole different topic. So thank you once again and have a great rest of your day. Slava, thank you and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're flipping a script on the tech scene. With innovation and skill, we're making it clean. Flipping and twisting with code and with grace. Building a continent.